Right, so one last thing to tidy up in Sapphire Ridge. Remember we went to see our friend the car in Rhombus Square? And he had us read a book of poetry that said some inscrutable nonsense about pandas and a cherry tree and secrets. And remember how a while back I said that there were some secret passages that weren't visually obvious, but you might have spotted them? This is that. That's what that is. It leads to this area, which is... well, it's quite something. I'll give it that.
I can already tell that this is going to be peak CrossCode.
Oh god. So, when you hit this switch, you might notice an incredibly ominous timer appears in the top right corner of our screen, saying that we have close to a minute and a half to do something. That something turns out to be a lot of jumps and a lot of trick shots. Just what it would have taken to design this screen is something bordering on sociopathy. I hate it, and yet I have to respect it. Also, that switch on that pillar is weird and doesn't like to trigger unless you hit it from specifically that one post that I hit it from. Also, do you like making blind jumps onto pillars? I don't know about you, but I love making blind jumps onto pillars. I fucking live for that shit. Literally 2 seconds to spare. But we got it.
I mean, okay, that seemed... I guess... I don't want to say poorly designed, but, like, I'm looking at that and going, I genuinely have no idea how somebody just coming into this screen would figure out that was what you were intended to do.
Oh, you would not. You would hit the switch and you'd go and try to make the jumps, and you might notice there are other switches, but a lot of them look like you're not supposed to be able to get to them yet, and it takes a certain leap of imagination to identify some of the trick shots that you're supposed to get.
Like, that whole screen seemed like it was obtuse for being obtuse.
I don't know about obtuse. It makes a lot of sense in retrospect. It broadly, it works. It's intentionally difficult to figure out, but it's not really unfair. I think maybe that the one blind jump from a very high pillar onto a very far away pole is okay, the eyebrows went up a little bit at that one, but to my mind, that's pretty much the worst of it. It's... I don't know. This is the last capital SD secret dungeon in the game. It's reasonable that there should be some stops pulled on it, on the game design front. Anyway, the other big thing going on in this dungeon is, this is where we start learning the limitations of these self-destruct machines. It turns out that you can have them chase you for a lot longer than might be immediately apparent when you do the first couple of these out in Sapphire Ridge. I'm not completely sure what's intended to be the chain of reasoning for the player here, but this place definitely does that video game thing, where if you've reached this point with the assumption that these guys can only chase you for a couple of steps, this will present you with scenarios that will force you to confront that assumption. Also, their pathing is not perfect. I think this is part of the puzzle. Basically, you've got to manage your distance from these things just right, such that they can actually follow you through all this terrain, but also that you can stay far enough ahead of them that they keep following you and don't fall a little bit short. Game design. Also, you, I think are notionally supposed to go to some effort to not get hit yourself by the explosion, but that just seems like a waste of time to me.
I mean, it does so little damage, what's even the point of trying to avoid it?
Right? Now, if one of these things goes off in a fight, that might actually be a problem. Especially since, like most other things of this kind, the damage that they deal is actually dependent on your stats. So, it can be a problem if one of these goes off in a fight. This is mostly only a problem in one particular other cave in Sapphire Ridge, but, maybe keep that one in mind. Here's some spiders, nothing we haven't dealt with before. This is basically a reflex to me by now. Here's some new spiders. These are war websters. They are pretty much the inverse of the Iranatadas we've been fighting. By which I mean you use ice and wave to fight them, rather than fire and shock. This is a bigger deal than it seems, because, well, I think I've mentioned before that all the elements play very differently to each other, so it's definitely not just a matter of transplanting the tactics. You do have to actually play a little bit differently depending on what element you're using, because, well, game design. So, our last big deal secret boss, as you can probably expect, is going to throw a bunch of those gimmicks at us. But also it's going to fight pretty similarly to the panzers outside that we've already fought, in that it's going to fire bombs, it's going to fire turrets, and it's only going to be vulnerable from the side. It's very annoying if you forget that last detail, by the way. Needless to say, the decoys are very useful here. And yeah, remember, they explode when broken. Do not forget that. We are honestly a tiny bit over-leveled. In that, you know, we actually did go and get all of the really good gear before coming to do this, which in retrospect I think might have made this a little bit more straightforward than it otherwise would have been. Like, even getting hit by the explosion from the self-destruct machine and getting hit by the brake explosion, we just ate all of that. So maybe I could have done this earlier. On the other hand, I feel like it was pretty inevitable that we'd have had to keep something to show off how unbelievably good the endgame equipment is relative to what you can have otherwise at this point. So I'm going to stand by this. Similarly, I'm pretty sure that if you don't clear up all of the mobs when you get them broken, it can complicate matters. Anyway, I like the idea of this laser beam drag attack. I can see what they were going for, but I feel like it's way too blunt and way too straightforward. It's not really any kind of a challenge at all, frankly. Solid attempt, but...
I feel like these little thingies that shoot out the wave particles at you would have been better purposed as, like, somehow using those as your teleport points so that it isn't so blatantly obvious.
Yeah, there's a couple places they could have taken this gimmick. Like, remember when we fought the ape and whale, and they had an attack that happens during the break phase that spawns the wave points, and half the challenge of doing that order of the fight is noticing that that's happening? I feel like we could have seen something where those turrets just drop green orbs and they last for a couple seconds. Maybe we could have been seeing that like the whole time we're fighting regular panzers in Sapphire Ridge. Maybe this could have been the culmination of a gimmick. Maybe they had that idea and it turned out to be like real complicated or just really annoying or something. I don't know. But I am fairly confident in my assessment that the attack that we ultimately got was not really interesting enough. Which is not to say that there's nothing to this fight. I mean, again, I remind everybody that we are magnificently over-leveled at this point. So, a lot of things that might have been very, very interesting are suddenly fairly straightforward again. Anyway, in keeping with the grand tradition, here's our broken piece of equipment. By the way, if you're unusually sharp, you might have noticed that there's been a continuity goof in this LP, in which in the previous video, I got the trophy for opening all the chests in Sapphire Ridge. But in this video, we were clearly still opening chests in Sapphire Ridge. This happened on account of recording some things out of order, and also on account of how trophy pop-ups in this game are done globally via your save file, like by your entire player profile rather than your individual save files. So I can't ever re-record those. There have been a couple times where I have actually used editing magic to get them to reappear in the right place after having done something multiple times. It's a whole thing. Anyway, let's finally find out what the hell's going on with the car. life lesson. Try just texting your kids.
Imagine using your words, like, at all.
And to think we taught him this despite being unable to use most words in the first place. Feels like quite an accomplishment in retrospect. Oh yeah, we were supposed to ask him about that.
So what is the point of all of this assorted shit that we've gotten?
Well, funny you should ask. So we never actually ended up doing this quest in the end because our friend realised that, hang on a minute, I can just talk to my children like a normal human being. But that's left the quest undone, and we can't have that. This offends our completionist senses. So we're gonna have to drag our friends into this nonsense. It's only right. Besides, we kind of deserve this for getting swept up in this, and also for, you know, actually clearing out the 5 secret places and fighting the 5 secret enemies. Remember that? Remember all that work we did? I want my goddamn content payoff. And naturally, Lynn immediately recognises what this is. Lynn? They're like here, can you not see them? I understand why this happened for, like, CrossCode game design reasons, but, like, I feel like they surely could have accounted for this.
Yeah, this seems like this would be a pretty straightforward rewrite, like... There's just the second half of this conversation if Emily or Trani happens to be in your party.
Strictly speaking, they would have needed 4 branches. They would have needed nobody, Emily, Trani, and both. But still not a very large amount of work, all told, for what still amounts to, like, hey, come back here with Emily and Trani, and we'll get it done. Ah well. Lynn, will you please stop expositing and just let us get on with the content?
Yes, thank you, Lynn. We know, we did it.
I'm always a fan of Buggy getting shut down. Especially now that we know his big secret, that he's actually just an ordinary good person. It just makes it funnier somehow. But yeah, I do feel like this conversation could have stood to have been like a third of the length, maybe. I don't know, all seems a bit game design to me. Anyway, I'm not sure what the point of this entire lower floor is. But, this one on the other hand.
Not gonna lie, that's a little disappointing.
Typical ancient stuff. Journey not the destination, etc., etc. We get some circuit points out of it. And also, if it occurs to you to try actually activating your detection in this room, you can finally learn the lore names of all of the planets in this system. It's a small detail, but a welcome one. But yeah, if you were expecting some kind of very large, dramatic, exciting payoff to all this, then at this point I can pretty safely accuse you of not having been paying attention. Also, there's the image of the comet on the back wall. That's something as well.
Because don't lie, Leia, you didn't see anything worth seeing in there.
Also, what the hell, Buggy? Not only was there not a mural of anything other than the meteor, there was definitely not a mural of any bunny people. What is going on with this conversation? Ah well, once again the real reward was the friends we made along the way or something. Also the power, let's not forget the power.
But how much power, though, really?